I woke up the morning after with my sister-in-law's perfume still on my sheets, and my husband sleeping peacefully beside me. That's when I understood that some betrayals don't announce themselves with screams or broken dishes. They slip in quietly, like a hand reaching for yours in the dark when you know it shouldn't. And the worst part? I had wanted that hand to find me. My name is Helen. I'm 59 years old, and for 32 years I believed I knew exactly who I was. A faithful wife. A devoted mother to 2 grown sons. A woman who had built her entire identity around stability, around doing the right thing, around never being that person. But last spring, during what was supposed to be a simple family reunion at our lake house, I discovered that the person you've been your whole life can disappear in a single glance. And I let her. My sister-in-law Rebecca had always unsettled me in ways I couldn't name. She's 7 years younger, still has that careless confidence some women carry into middle age like a secret weapon. She laughs too loud, touches people when she talks, lives alone by choice after 2 divorces. My husband David's family always treated her like the unpredictable one, the one who made questionable decisions. I had always been the opposite, the safe harbor, the one they could count on. We'd known each other for decades, seen each other through births and deaths and every holiday in between. We were family, which is exactly why what happened shouldn't have been possible. The lake house weekend started normally enough. David wanted to celebrate our anniversary with family. His brother Mark was bringing Rebecca. Our sons were driving up with their girlfriends. I spent 3 days preparing rooms, planning meals, making everything perfect the way I always did. I remember standing in the kitchen that Friday afternoon, chopping vegetables for dinner, feeling proud of the life I'd built. Proud of being someone people could rely on. I had no idea I was about to meet a version of myself I didn't recognize. Rebecca arrived late after everyone else, carrying wine and wearing this loose linen shirt that kept slipping off one shoulder. She hugged me hello the way she always did, but this time her hands lingered on my waist just a fraction too long. I felt it in my stomach before I understood it in my mind, that small electric shock of attention that changes everything. "You look different," she said, studying my face. Something's changed. I hadn't changed, not yet. But maybe she saw it coming before I did. That night we all stayed up late on the deck, drinking wine and telling old stories. David fell asleep in his chair around 11, snoring softly, and gradually everyone else drifted off to bed. Except Rebecca. She moved her chair closer to mine, close enough that I could smell her perfume mixing with the lake air, and started asking me questions no one had asked in years. Real questions. About what I wanted. About whether I was happy. About who I'd been before I became someone's wife and someone's mother. I should have said goodnight. I should have gone inside to my husband. Instead, I told her things I'd never said out loud. About feeling invisible. About wondering if I'd traded too much of myself for stability. About sometimes looking in the mirror and not recognizing the careful, controlled woman staring back. "You're not invisible to me," she said quietly, and the way she looked at me made my heart forget its rhythm. Nothing happened that night, but everything started. Over the next 2 days, Rebecca and I kept finding reasons to be alone together. Volunteering to make coffee runs into town. Taking a canoe out while everyone else napped. Long walks along the shore that somehow always led us away from the house, away from witnesses. We talked about everything, her failed marriages, my quiet disappointments, the versions of ourselves we'd buried to make other people comfortable. But underneath every conversation was this growing current of something I kept trying not to name. I told myself it was just friendship, just connection. 2 women in their middle years finally being honest about their lives. If my pulse raced when she touched my arm, if I found myself watching her across rooms, if I stayed awake at night replaying every word between us, that didn't mean anything. It couldn't mean anything. I'd been married for 32 years. I'd never looked at a woman that way. I didn't even know I could. But here's what I learned about desire. It doesn't care about your identity or your history or the story you've told yourself about who you are. It just arrives, and it demands to be acknowledged. Sunday afternoon, the day everyone was supposed to leave, Rebecca asked me to walk down to the dock one more time. David was packing the car. Our sons were playing cards on the porch. It seemed innocent enough, just 2 sisters-in-law saying goodbye after a nice weekend. We sat on the edge of the dock with our feet in the water, not talking, just watching the sunlight break apart on the waves. And then she said, "I can't stop thinking about Thursday night, about everything you told me." My throat tightened. I probably said too much. The wine. Helen. She turned to face me, and I felt that electric shock again, stronger this time. "I think you know this isn't just me." I should have denied it, should have laughed it off, should have stood up and walked back to my safe, predictable life. Instead, I whispered, "I know." And when she leaned in and kissed me, soft and tentative and questioning, I kissed her back. It lasted maybe 10 seconds. But in those 10 seconds, every wall I'd built around who I was supposed to be crumbled. I pulled away gasping, terrified, exhilarated, completely lost. Rebecca's eyes searched mine, waiting for me to say this was a mistake, waiting for me to run. "I can't do this," I said, but I didn't move away. "Okay," she said gently. "We won't." But we both knew it was already too late. After that weekend, I tried so hard to go back to normal. I threw myself into my routines, into taking care of David, into being the woman I'd always been. But Rebecca had cracked something open in me, and now I couldn't close it. Every time my phone buzzed with a text from her, just casual check-ins, nothing inappropriate, my whole body responded. Every time I saw her name, I felt alive in a way I hadn't in decades. We started talking every day, long phone calls when David was at work, text conversations that went late into the night. She never pushed, never asked for more than I could give. But she saw me in a way I'd forgotten was possible. She made me feel like I mattered as more than just someone's wife or mother. She made me remember who I'd been at 25, before I'd learned to make myself smaller to fit into the life I'd chosen. And slowly, without meaning to, I fell in love with her. I kept telling myself we were just friends. Close friends. Maybe too close, but still innocent enough. We hadn't crossed any real lines since that one kiss. We'd just talked. That wasn't cheating. That was just connection. But then came Memorial Day weekend, and David's brother invited us all to his house for a barbecue. Rebecca would be there. And I spent 3 days before that party unable to eat, unable to sleep, my entire body humming with anticipation and guilt. The barbecue was torture. Watching Rebecca across the yard, pretending everything was normal, making small talk with people who had no idea that I spent every night thinking about someone I shouldn't. David kept his arm around my waist, so proud of his stable, faithful wife. I felt like I was wearing a costume of my own life. Around sunset, Rebecca found me alone in the kitchen refilling ice buckets. She came up behind me, close enough that I could feel her breath on my neck, and whispered, "Come over tomorrow, please, just for coffee, just to talk." Every rational thought I had screamed no, but I heard myself say, "What time?" The next morning, I told David I was meeting an old college friend for lunch. He kissed me goodbye without suspicion, without any idea that I was driving to his sister-in-law's apartment with my hands shaking on the steering wheel. Rebecca opened the door in bare feet and an oversized sweater, and just seeing her made my heart break and soar at the same time. We sat on her couch with coffee between us, both of us knowing why I was really there, neither of us sure how to cross that final line. "I can't stop thinking about you," she said finally, "and I know this is impossible. I know all the reasons this can't happen. But Helen, I kissed her before she could finish. And this time, I didn't pull away. We spent 4 hours in her apartment that day, just holding each other, kissing, talking, crying. Nothing more. But it was still the biggest betrayal of my marriage I'd ever committed, not because of what we did, but because of what I felt. Complete, seen, alive. Things I realized I hadn't felt with David in years, maybe ever. When I finally left to go home, Rebecca took my hand at the door and said, "Whatever you decide, I'll understand. I won't push you. But I need you to know that this is real for me. You're real for me." I drove home in a daze, David's sister's words echoing in my mind, my body still humming with the memory of her touch. I walked into my house where my husband was watching television, where my wedding photos hung on the walls, where I'd built 32 years of life. and I felt like a stranger in my own home. That night in bed, David reached for me the way he had 1,000 times before. And for the first time in our marriage, I pretended. I closed my eyes and let him believe everything was fine while I disappeared into memories of someone else's hands, someone else's mouth, someone else's way of seeing me. I had become that person, the one who lies, the one who betrays, the one who destroys families. And the most terrifying part? I didn't want to stop. For the next 3 months, I lived 2 lives. In one, I was Helen the faithful wife, attending David's work dinners, having Sunday lunch with our sons, maintaining the perfect facade I'd built over decades. In the other, I was someone I barely recognized, sneaking to Rebecca's apartment during David's business trips, making excuses to meet for coffee, sending texts I had to immediately delete, feeling my heart race every time her name appeared on my phone. We were so careful. We never went anywhere public together. We never told anyone. We barely talked about what we were doing or what it meant. We just existed in this suspended moment of stolen time, pretending consequences didn't exist. But Rebecca started pulling away. I could feel it. The texts came less frequently. She canceled plans. When we were together, she seemed distant, sad. Finally, in late August, she sat me down in her apartment and said the words I'd been dreading. I love you, but I can't keep being your secret. This is killing me, Helen. You go home to him every night, and I'm here alone, waiting for whatever scraps of time you can give me. I need you to make a choice. I wanted to tell her I choose you. I wanted to say I'd leave everything and build a new life with her. But when I opened my mouth, what came out was, I need more time. She nodded slowly, tears in her eyes. Okay, but Helen, I can't wait forever. I left her apartment that day knowing I was losing her, and still, I couldn't make myself choose. Then came September 19th, the day everything fell apart. I was at Rebecca's apartment mid-afternoon on a Thursday when David thought I was at a book club. We were on her couch, her head on my shoulder, making plans for the following weekend, when we heard a key in the lock. Rebecca jumped up, confused. That can't be... The door opened and David's brother Mark walked in carrying a toolbox. He froze when he saw me, saw us, saw the way we'd been sitting, the way Rebecca's lipstick was smudged, the guilt written all over both our faces. For a long moment, nobody moved. Nobody breathed. Then Mark said quietly, Rebecca gave me a key months ago to fix her bathroom sink. I told her I was coming today. She must have forgotten. Rebecca's face went white. Mark, this isn't... But he was already backing out the door. I didn't see anything. I wasn't here. He left, and Rebecca and I stared at each other in horror. David's brother knew, which meant David would know, my sons would know. My entire carefully constructed life was about to detonate. I drove home in a fog of panic. Maybe Mark would keep quiet. Maybe he'd give me time to figure out how to handle this. Maybe... David was sitting at the kitchen table when I walked in. Mark had called him immediately. Tell me it's not true, David said, his voice shaking. Tell me my brother is lying. And I couldn't. I couldn't tell him it wasn't true. I couldn't even form words. The next hours were a blur of screaming and crying and revelations. David demanded to know everything. How long, how many times, whether I loved her, whether our entire marriage had been a lie. Our sons came over, called by their father, and watched their mother crumble in front of them. The shock in their eyes, the betrayal, the disgust. I'll never forget it. But the worst moment came when my oldest son asked, Did you even try to stop yourself? Or did you just not care what it would do to us? I had no good answer, because the truth was, I had tried. And I hadn't tried. I'd known the risks, known the damage, and I'd kept going anyway. I'd chosen my own awakening over their stability. I'd burned everything down just to feel alive. David threw me out that night, told me to go to Rebecca's since I seemed to prefer her anyway. I called her from my car, sobbing, and she took me in even though I could see the hurt in her eyes that I'd still been trying to have it both ways until I'd been caught. The next weeks were brutal. David filed for divorce immediately. Our sons wouldn't speak to me. David's entire family cut me off, including Rebecca, who Mark pressured into ending things with me to try to salvage some family peace. I lost everything in one domino fall of consequences. I'm living alone now, in a small apartment across town. The divorce is nearly final. My sons eventually started returning my calls, but it's different now. I'm different to them. I'm the mother who destroyed their family, who lied, who turned out to be someone they didn't know. Rebecca and I don't speak anymore. She sent me one text, weeks after it all fell apart. I hope you find what you were looking for. I don't know if I did. I don't know if the brief moments of feeling seen and alive were worth the complete destruction of my life. Some days I think yes. I finally met myself, the real me that had been buried under decades of being what everyone needed. Other days I think I was selfish and reckless and cruel, and I deserve everything I lost. David's moved on already, dating someone from his office. My sons are civil but distant. I see photos on social media of family dinners I'm no longer invited to. Holidays I'll spend alone. I burned my whole life down, and most days I can't tell if I'm finally free or just completely lost. But here's what keeps me up at night. I don't regret loving her. I regret the lying, the betrayal, the pain I caused, but I don't regret discovering that part of myself. Even now, alone in this small apartment with nothing left of the life I built, I can't make myself wish I'd never felt what I felt. So I'll leave you with this question, because I'm still trying to answer it myself. If you discovered a part of yourself that made you feel alive for the first time in decades, but acknowledging it meant destroying everything you'd built, would you do it? Should you? Or is some knowledge too dangerous to pursue, no matter how true it feels? Comment below. Because I'm still trying to figure out if I saved myself or destroyed myself, and I honestly don't know which one it is.